Hello, today I will be speaking about the major economic, political, and social forces on education in the first half of the 20th century. Additionally, we will cover the overall role of the federal government in education via the New Deal, the No Child Left Behind Act, and the American Rescue Plan. At the turn of the century, we saw the largest increased percentage of population growth we've had in the United States. The large increase of population helped supplement the booming industries of the time. During the turn of the centuries, we saw an economic boom in which large industries were the economic strength of our country. Also considered a dark chapter in American history, mainly due to industries taking advantage of the common worker and breaking child labor laws. Additionally, we saw major corruption throughout many industries, including school boards. As workers and educators and overall Americans began gaining more rights, we are led into the progressive era, more specifically, the progressive era in education. During this time, there was an end of vocational instruction to a more centralized method of education. Pioneers to this movement include John Dewey, who believed that the students should learn in a child-centered curriculum versus a subject-centered curriculum, which was primarily what was taught before. In a child-centered curriculum, the teaching methods focus on child critical thinking and learning through experiences, while the subject-centered curriculum, as before, focus on memorization and test scores. As we move away from the progressive era, we go into the Great Depression. And during the Great Depression, we saw many school closures throughout the country and many teachers leaving the profession due to economical reasons. To help with educational issues during this time, Theodore Roosevelt implemented the New Deal. The New Deal was the first major legislation in which we saw the federal government have a great impact in education than previously before. As before, early education attitudes were that the local and state government oversaw education. Overall, this was the first real implication of the federal government and education. Some pros and cons of the New Deal include federal assistance was allocated to the states, and there was little federal oversight on how that money was spent in education. Lastly, some of the cons included that the New Deal had operated without future planning. Also, there was nothing in place after the New Deal ended. The New Deal changed the perception of many that the federal government can have a role in education. It was also a preface to the future federal involvement within education. In January of 2002, the Bush administration rolled out the No Child Left Behind Act. Compared to the New Deal, we saw big government in education with the No Child Left Behind Act. For example, federal distribution was a direct result of standardized testing throughout our education system. Some pros of the No Child Left Behind Act was it advocated for more rigorous qualifications for new teachers. Some limitation was that as there was large government oversight, it led to disputes on whether education control should be handled by the state, local, or federal level. Additionally, it shifted focus away from other subjects and it put pressure on children and teachers to perform well. During the Biden administration, we saw the American Rescue Plan. The American Rescue Plans seeked out to combat learning loss and address student mental health needs after the COVID-19 pandemic. Just recently, $130 billion was allocated to the act to help subsidize the cost of counselors, mental health support, and the reopening of schools. Some limitations on the American Rescue Plan is that it is a fairly new act and we're still waiting on research on the implications that COVID-19 had on children learning and their cognitive ability. Overall, federal contribution is low compared to the state and local funding. Just in 2012 and 2013, only 8% of school funding comes from the federal level, while 92% comes from the state and local levels. Additionally, we reviewed the New Deal, No Child Left Behind, and the American Rescue Plan and how those type of legislations affect the overall learning experience for children.